Hey, what's happening? Welcome to the channel. If this is the first time, thanks for watching and please hit the subscribe button. I'm the sports judge. Tua Tagovailoa goes off on his former head coach Brian Flores. Everything has been about Tua unleashing a blistering attack on Flores. Tua was on the Dan Laboratory show and was asked about the difference between playing for Brian Flores and Mike McDaniel. And let me tell you this, he told us how he really feels about his former head coach. He told us how terrible of a person Brian Flores really is. Flores getting put on blast. To put him on blast is way out of pocket. Tua on the difference between Brian Flores and Mike McDaniel, here's what he said. If you woke up every morning and I told you that you suck at what you did, that you don't belong, that you shouldn't be here, how would it make you feel? I've never heard this type of honesty from a quarterback. I've never heard this type of honesty ever before from a quarterback. Like, you rarely hear this. Some brutal honesty here. It was the most honest interview you've ever heard. You don't hear this often, especially from a quarterback. Tua admitting that his coach, it's apparent that Flores wasn't good for him. I mean, that was real. Tua was being real about what Brian Flores and his relationship was like. Somewhere down the road, their relationship floundered. Maybe they never really got along. Maybe it was a fractured, broken relationship the entire time. Relationships are like glass. Sometimes it's better to leave them broken than trying to piece it back together. And maybe now that we know this, maybe the dismissal of Brian Flores makes sense now after Tua publicly came out and roasted the ex-Dolphins coach. All right, so Tua didn't hold back. It's not something you see often from players where they come out and blast former coaches. So when it happens, we're always a little surprised. We're shocked. Can you believe what he just said? Oh, I can't believe that came out of his mouth. There's a fine line between tough love, hard coaching, and demeaning. It's not going to always be perfect as different coaching styles, mesh up with different people. And different players take things different ways. Some players are soft and overly sensitive. They can't handle when a coach is being brutally honest or show them tough love. No need to be overly sensitive and rip Brian Flores, because it makes him now look bad as a person. But there's always three sides to a story. I always say there's always three sides to a story. I always say that. There's your side, the other person's side, and then there's the truth. Obviously, it was a toxic relationship. Tua was critical of how Brian Flores coached him. Obviously, he never felt comfortable with him as his head coach. Obviously, he didn't like him being his head coach. And Tua is not the only player to speak out against Flores. Now it doesn't mean everything Tua says is true about Flores. It doesn't mean that at all. Not everything may not be true. I don't know. It means that their perspective is their perspective. And so I feel like that's Tua's position, and that's how he feels about Flores. The most important position on a football team is the quarterback. And so I think as a head coach, it's imperative that you figure out how to coach that player the best way you can. And I think in an emotionally secure dynamic, Tua feels comfortable expressing himself and showing showing a different aspect of himself. Look, it can be difficult for players to feel comfortable showing their emotions. I think having confidence, there's an understanding that he's that type of leader that you want on your team. A confident player is comfortable in his own skin. I love it. It's great for the Miami Dolphins. And having a coach like Mike McDaniel has been such a benefit for Tua. I like the transformation of his career. Tua has gotten better. He has improved as a quarterback and has worked out nicely in Miami. His complete trust in McDaniel has made him rediscover himself, some would say, and gave him his deserved accolades. Since McDaniel arrived, Tua has looked like a completely different player. You know, he's gotten better. I think he's definitely grown. So with Flores, maybe he felt like he wasn't getting anywhere. I am a little shocked, but not surprised by the reaction to Tua opening up about a harmful relationship with Brian Flores. So now we know the relationship between Tua and Flores wasn't always great. And with that, the decision to fire Flores a couple of years ago can be summed up with one word: relationships. And you know, there were reports when Flores got fired that his relationship with Greer and Tua had deteriorated. And what Tua was saying here, he got beat down by his head coach. You know, his head coach tried to break him and not build him up. Flores' coaching style, him being tough on Tua, obviously didn't motivate Tua to be better. Tua has never had more reason to feel confident in his abilities than now under Mike McDaniel, who always finds the right things to say to bolster your confidence. I mean, since day one, he has been a huge supporter of Tua. And whether he believes it or not, he's trying to build up, your confidence. That's what a great coach does. Focus on inspiring their players. You have to know how to motivate your players and get them to buy in. A reminder that, these are grown men that shouldn't be babied, but at the same time, these are grown men that you have to, be a little tough on, but at the same time, there's a certain level of respect. They're professional football players. Great coaches are great teachers. Coaches don't just coach. They support, listen, and build relationships with their players. The greater the trust and respect between the player and coach, the more the player respects the coach and embraces his style of coaching. And Tua, I think in large part got the contract because of Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel endorses his quarterback. He says nice things about his quarterback. He trusts in his quarterback. He believes in his quarterback. I think Mike McDaniel is such an offensive-minded head coach that he unlocked Tua. That's the way of life in Miami. Obviously, he wasn't Brian Flores' guy. There were days where it didn't even seem likely that you could plug in a quarterback like Tua in any offense. That's one of those things I can say about Mike McDaniel. This guy is a genius, known for his innovative offensive schemes, which emphasize creativity and adaptability. And I think because he has an uncanny ability to connect with people, that it has contributed to Tua's consistency and growth. We've seen a big difference in his game. Even his attitude, his demeanor, his confidence. We now know Flores wasn't trying to coach Tua. He was trying to break him. If all of this is true, a good coach has to work with the players that he has on his roster. Tua opens up about Flores on a radio show, calling him, quote, a terrible person. And people in sports all the time are wrong about people. They get it wrong all the time. Oh, they can't do this. They're not very good at that. They're not good enough. Tough love isn't for everybody, folks. Some of you may call it abuse or tough love, but either way, Tua is much better off with Coach McDaniel, because with McDaniel as his coach, it actually made Tua a better quarterback. And there is a thin line between tough love and just trying to break someone because you feel that he's not your guy, or this terrible quarterback who doesn't fit your system, or whatever it is, whatever it may be, right? And I'm not sitting here acting like Tua is a top tier quarterback. I think he's a fantastic quarterback. I think he's good. But if it's true that Flores was beating the guy down every day, then yeah, it was time to move on from Flores. I'm not surprised to hear about the toxicity of Flores and Tua's relationship. And tough love doesn't mean you get to disparage someone. What Tua was saying is true. If you tell a little kid that they could be anything in life, they're going to believe it and probably have a good shot that kid's going to have a chance to do something great in life. If you tell a kid that they're dumb and stupid, well, guess what? They're going to start to believe it, and most likely they won't achieve in anything. They'll fail in life because they don't have that support system. They don't have anyone encouraging them or telling them that they can be great. I credit Mike McDaniel for building him up. It helped tremendously. It skyrocketed Tua's confidence. He got the greatness out of him, and you saw that last season. Tua played great last season. He stayed healthy, he got paid, and improved his game. The story out of the Dolphins is that he's shown that he's their guy. He's done enough to earn the contract. He got a big payday. And we all know that Brian Flores got fired. And when it happened, it shocked the hell out of all of us. I was very, very shocked when I heard the news that Brian Flores got fired. But now we know why. Here's the thing with Brian Flores. He's kind of like Bill Belichick. A lot of similarities. I think Brian Flores is kind of like that same kind of piece of clay. And here's why. He comes from the Bill Belichick coaching tree. There's some stuff that Brian Flores does that a lot of people obviously don't like. He's not the coach for everyone. And he doesn't coach everyone the same. Nobody talks about this, but he grew up under Coach Belichick. That's how he coaches in terms of style. They share the same characteristics and personal traits. And like I said, Coach Brian Flores is not for everyone. He may never get another coaching job in the NFL. He may not. And not everybody can take it when another grown man yells and screams, tells them what they're not good at, not really motivating them, and instead kicking them when they're down. Eventually it gets old. Eventually nobody wants to hear that. And suddenly the players are no longer listening to you. Nobody wants to hear that all the time, especially in an era where people are soft and can barely take it when something is said about them. It's difficult to coach players without creating a negative atmosphere. We've seen it too many times. And for Tua to do what he did, I mean, it takes courage to actually speak your truth after being mistreated. If all of this is true, there's nothing wrong with a coach coaching his players hard. But I do have a problem with a coach cursing at a player or disrespecting a player, because I will tell you this: everybody deserves a certain level of respect. Everybody deserves a certain level of respect. And when you go overboard, when you resort to name calling, screaming at them and talking down on them, it's really hard to earn the respect of your players. Like, that would turn people off, and it does. It turns a lot of players off, and it creates a losing culture. And I think sometimes coaches can be unfair and too harsh and not even realize it. This kind of stuff gets out. I think we've seen a lot of organizations approve of a player that the coach never wanted. The reality is Tua had a big problem on his hands when Flores was there, because Flores asked for Justin Herbert and was given Tua. Tua was never his guy. He wasn't his guy. And the new guy who took Flores' place has made it work with Tua. Look at him. Look at Tua now. He has grown. Tua is a better athlete and better at making plays. I truly believe what Tua said could be true, and that's where Tua has to just go on about his life and not worry about the past. Just let it go. That's in the past. Whatever happened in the past happened. Don't dwell on it too much. Flores is gone. You're still there in Miami. And, they're counting on you. They're counting on you to be the franchise quarterback. I like what I saw last season. And again, coaching has a lot to do with a player's success. And you've seen Tua get better thanks to Mike McDaniel. And all I can really say is that Brian Flores just wasn't the guy. And that much has been made obvious. Thanks for watching, everyone. Really appreciate the love and support. Thanks for watching my videos. Thanks for keeping up with the content. And thanks for, tuning in to all my great stuff that I put out there. I really appreciate it. If you guys haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Please hit that subscribe button for me. But I'm getting out of here now. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys very soon. Have a good day.